In life, we encounter people every day, all of whom have stories to share. We rarely take the time to ask people their personal stories, many of which will touch, move, and inspire us in some way. Matt has a passion for making authentic connections and learning about people from all walks of life. He has lived a life of giving back to the community and making a difference in people's lives. Are you ready to meet fascinating people and hear some inspiring stories? The Matt Hilton Show will introduce you to a world of possibilities you never knew existed. Sit back, be present, and enjoy. Here's your host, Matt Hilton.
Hey everyone, Matt Hilton here, the host of the Matt Hilton Show. Thanks for tuning in today. Today's guest is someone that I recently met, and he is quite the character. I wanted to bring him on because he has a personality as big as Dallas. He's a foodie, he's a winemaker, and he is a master distiller. And he has some great stories to tell. He went to Baylor University just like I did, so go Bears. Sick 'em Bears, that's what we should say. So without further ado, Lee Fuqua, thank you for being here today.
Well, it's great to be here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So was I accurate, foodie?
Yeah. So the wife and I got married 38 years ago, and we were having cooking problems. I said, we need to find a cooking school. She discovered the culinary department at El Centro College, and she took one semester down there, and everything improved so much, I started going too. So we both went through the whole program at El Centro, and we loved it. Everybody thought we were going to open a restaurant. We were like, no, we're not crazy. We're not going to open a restaurant. We just want to know how to cook better. And so it was great fun. We even went to the Culinary Olympics one year in Frankfurt, Germany. And
culinary, tell me about that.
It's every four or 6 years, whenever it is. It's always in Frankfurt. And they have got a lot of commercial kitchens available there. And so during World War II, they leveled the whole town, so they had to rebuild it. So everything looks brand new and modern, and it is. And they have that competition, and we weren't involved in the competition. We were just there to look and see. And it was a class from El Centro. We all went, and we had a blast. It was great fun. So not so much work, but lots of critiquing. And some countries didn't even show up. It was just like, oh, how sad. Anyway. But while doing food, I got interested in wine, and I wanted to learn how to make wine. And I found this college up in Sherman, Grayson College, and they had a complete viticulture and enology program up there, just like UC Davis or Fresno State or Cornell University. Those were the other three that had degree programs. And then Grayson College in Sherman, Texas. And it's because T.V. Munson was from up there, and he saved the French wine industry in the late 1800s because this bug broke out and it was eating all the roots of the grapevines in France, and it was killing everything. And Munson went around and collected rootstock, native Texas rootstock, cataloged it if it was good for wet conditions or dry or high pH or whatever, and sent it to France. And even to today, almost everything in France is still growing on top of rootstock, that most of which survived came from Texas, because we have high pH soils, and they do too. So anyway.
Did you have a vineyard, or was it a winery?
They said, in 1997, I graduated, and they said, go forth and plant a vineyard and put in a winery. I guess they thought I wasn't paying attention, because I would never plant a vineyard in Texas. I mean, the only good places to grow grapes in Texas would be out by Lubbock, where it's like a billiard table. I mean, there's no trees, it's flat as it can be. A lot of red dirt, so there's a lot of iron, and that helps out the vines. And it gets cool at night. They're like, I think the Newsom's vineyard's like 4,400 feet above sea level. So it's like Paso Robles or it's Santa Fe. If you've been to Santa Fe, you know it can be warm in the day. And as soon as the sun goes down, holy cow, it's like somebody turned on the air conditioner. I mean, it's just like goes freezing. So the plant has a chance to catch up with all the heat stress it's had during the day.
I find that interesting that you say that a place like Lubbock, like I think of like, around San Antonio and, where all of those vineyards are.
Well, the hill country is, it's too hot, but it's real pretty, all those hills. And so that's Highway 290 is it's the very first busiest wine highway in the United States, only after the road that goes through Napa. I mean, so it's really well trafficked. And so about half the fruit I used to use for wine would come from Texas. I would use Viognier for white wine, and Sometimes I do some blends with some French American hybrids and stuff, but I would use a lot of Cab and Merlot and Pinot Noir from Willamette Valley and from California. So the fruit in Texas would be mechanically harvested, and they would shake the plant and the berries would fall off, and then we'd try to get it to the winery as soon as possible so we could press it out.
Right.
But the fruit from California was all hand harvested whole clusters, and it would come in a refrigerated truck or sometimes frozen. You know, if they were red grapes, I'd say, oh, I'll put it on a frozen truck. So those little pieces of ice would like bust up the pockets where all the colors kept. And well, you could get some really, really, really dark, inky red wines from freezing the grapes. And so they don't normally freeze the grapes. It's expensive to do. But anyway, yeah, they just didn't think I was paying any attention when I was in school up in Grayson.
I find that
you
quite
know,
fascinating.
So I did the commercial winery for 8 years.
Okay.
I had at least 2 wines that were best in the entire United States in their categories, and one of them was a Chardonnay from Texas, Texas fruit, and it won best white wine in the entire United States at the 30th annual U.S. Open Amateur Wine Competition in Los Angeles, California. I had magazines calling me up and saying, holy smoke, how did you make this stuff? If I told you, I'd have to kill you. So it's a secret.
So
but anyway.
you don't make it anymore?
Well, I still have my wine press. I may press some grapes out to ferment, to then distill and make something like a brandy, and then barrel age it for a while and make something like a cognac. But of course, we can't call it that because the French would have they'd be upset.
So enlighten those that don't understand what that means.
Well, they say they get mad if you call your sparkling wine a champagne, even though you can say method champenoise. So that's the style in which it was made, usually fermented, secondary fermentation in the bottle, which causes the bubbles, and you put yeast and sugar in there, and it does that. Okay. A little too much, and the bottles start exploding, and not enough, and it's flat. So it's a delicate balance that you have to work on wine. But spirits is a lot more fun. Spirits are like, wine is this little tiny window between grape juice and vinegar.
And when you say little tiny window, what does that typically look like?
Well, just like a few years. But if you make vodka, it's good for, you can put it in the trunk of your car in August in Dallas and cook it. I mean, I took these up to 140 degrees to test my tops to make sure they weren't going to come off. And didn't hurt the vodka at all. I mean, it's bulletproof. So wine would get too hot or too much oxygen, and it would go bad. So it was always a trick. Not enough sulfur dioxide, and you had to adjust it according to the pH of the wine. So the higher the pH, the more sulfur dioxide you'd have to put in as a preservative. And if you try to make a low SO2 or sulfur dioxide wine, I did those, and they would last like 6 months, and then they'd start turning, and they're like, which is not good.
Yeah.
I mean, you want it to be stable in the bottle for 10 or 15 or 20 years if you can, and the vodkas all are. So the vodka's
yeah, tell us
fun.
about the vodka real quick.
So I did the winery for commercial winery for 8 years, and then almost 10 years ago now I became diabetic. So I have a college degree in viticulture and enology, and I can't drink wine anymore. I just can't do it. It makes my if I consume wine one evening, even if it's the driest wine on earth, my blood sugar goes up a little bit and then comes back down. But the next day it goes up and stays up all day long. And they said, you are going to die if you keep drinking wine. I said, well, nobody gets out of this place alive anyway. But I'm not ready to die this week or this month or this year. So I decided to, the wife said, hey, we have all the equipment except for a still. Why don't we become a distillery? And I said, whoa, yeah, let's go. So let's do it. So I said, give me some money, I'll go buy a still. So I did a bunch of research on all these stills and found a company in Florida that had a guy who makes these stills for them, an American who lives in mainland China. It's a good still. It's a 6-plate column still, and it distills the product 7 times in one pass. And so we start with Texas-grown sugarcane. Sometimes we use sugarcane juice from Louisiana. But mostly Texas, and we comes in 55-gallon barrels, frozen hard as a rock. We just thaw it out. It takes about a week, and then we pump it into the tank, the big tank, and we pitch yeast. And it takes about a week to convert all the sugars into carbon dioxide and ethyl alcohol. And then we let it settle for another week, so all that goes to the bottom, and then we rack or pump the clear liquid off the top. I'm just making sugarcane wine, and then that's what goes into the still, 50 gallons at a time. And
So when you say it goes down to the bottom, what goes down? What settles in the bottom?
the yeast die, they all go down the bottom and makes like a mud across the bottom. So people who are using wheat or corn or potatoes, they have to chop those up and they have to heat them up to almost boiling and then pitch enzymes into the mix to convert the starches to sugar. And then they have to cool it down and do it a second time and convert more of the starches to sugar. Then they can pitch yeast and ferment the sugar. And then when they're done, they're left shoveling thousands of pounds of corn or potato or whatever out of their tanks. Me, I just had some vodka in Hawaii called Ocean, and it was made from sugarcane, and it was really clean and really good. And I thought, well, that's smart, because when you're done, you've just got dead yeast in the bottom of the tank. You just open the drain valve and get in there with a hose and just hose it all out. And if there's, problem places, you hit it with the power washer and you're done. There's no shoveling all these thousands of pounds of stuff out. So anyway, and it's faster and it's ready to go pretty quick, and it just takes a couple of weeks. And then I blend it with some real purified water. We use a 5-stage reverse osmosis filtration system. And then we run it to 82 proof, which is 41% alcohol. And there it is. We put it in a little tank and we filter it for at least 48 hours. And it goes through 3 active carbon filters. And now we also filter it through diamonds. And so we're the only...
Wait, did you say diamonds?
Diamonds. So we're the only spirits in the world that's filtered through 3 different kinds of diamonds. So we have, I heard one of the other United States vodkas was filtering through Herkimer diamonds. And I'm like, well, that sounds cool. I don't know what a Herkimer diamond is. So I looked that up. Turns out it's a double terminated quartz crystal that comes from Herkimer County, New York. And they look like cut and polished diamonds straight out of the ground. I'll show you some here in a little bit.
Okay.
But and then we also have real diamonds and then some man-made diamonds. So we have all 3. We got all the bases covered.
So what does that do?
So it looks really cool.
Okay, it looks cool. It sounds really cool. Yeah.
And that's it. I tell you. So people ask me all the time, what does it do to the vodka? I said, I just told you, it looks really cool. Okay. And it does. Yep. And so anyway, Crystal Head is using Herkimer diamonds, and one of the Russian vodkas, Crystal Head's like $90 or $100 a bottle, and one of the Russian vodkas, it's like $150 or more dollars. I can't remember the name of it. They're filtering through real diamonds, but their filter doesn't look as cool as mine, but I'll show you later.
Yeah. Okay.
But anyway, so
you as a diabetic can drink.
I can drink this all day if I want, but I can't get anything done. So I have a hard, fast rule. I don't touch anything until after 5 o'clock local time, unless I'm like on vacation. So we had this canal boat, and we were doing Bloody Marys one morning. And boy, we were bouncing this boat off the walls. I said, must be the Bloody Marys anyway. It was.
So you have some different flavors.
So, yeah, we do. So this is the unflavored. It's the base for everything. And it's distilled 7 times, like I said, and then it gets filtered over 1,000 times through these active carbon filters, and then also through the diamonds. And
that just sound and look cool.
And we just put the sticker on here that says like diamond filtered for, I think it says for purity. But so I found an obscure paper from Russia that said if you filter anything through diamonds, it will actually filter arsenic out of that product. So we don't have any arsenic to begin with, but if it did somehow, then we'd be getting rid of that. So
it's all about the marketing and the packaging, right?
I guess.
That's it. Yeah,
it is. Some people. So
that's
then
great.
We have other flavors that are really unique. This is French oak. It looks kind of brown because it is. It smells and tastes like vanilla, and there's no vanilla in it. It's all comes from the wood. It's the only wine wood barrel flavored vodka in the world.
Did y'all hear that? The only what? Say it again.
We used to use brand spanking new French oak wine barrels, and I had a couple left over from operations of the winery, and so I filled one of them up with vodka just for fun. You know, we try little experiments, and if we screw something up, we can always distill it again and get rid of everything and go back to neutral. But it stayed less than a month. I pulled the bung out and stuck my nose down there. I went like, wow, this smells great. And so it's no sugar. Some people think it has sugar in it, but it doesn't. I promise you.
So it tastes great. When I visited his distillery,
You tasted it, right?
I tasted it because he asked me, "What is your preferred drink?" And I said, "Well, I'm a Scotch guy, or whiskey." And so he was like, "This is probably going to be the one that you like the most." And sure enough, as my grandmother used to say, it was.
It's the only one that flavor. We also have grapefruit mango. It's the only grapefruit mango flavored vodka in the world.
That's good too.
And then we have a truffle flavor, real truffle from France.
That's a
so
good
not
one.
chocolate. It's tuber melanosporum is the variety. So if you went to a French restaurant, had any food that had truffles in it, this is the exact same truffle that they would use in. It's the black diamond of the culinary world. So it's great for making like truffle-flavored Bloody Marys or a truffle-flavored bullshot. I mean, that's it. Or I think my other sister likes to have dirty martinis made with it, but I think she just likes to drink it because it's real expensive. There's a new one. Mine's been on the market for 7 years. There's one that's been on the market for about 3 years now. That's $150 a bottle. I saw it in the store. I was going to buy it and try it against mine, but I had to take a pass on that. But the mine retails for $75, so it's half the price of the other truffle flavored vodka. Mine's the one that won best vodka in the world at one of the largest competitions in the world. So anyway, and then we have gin.
Some gin. There we go.
And so the gin's it's like London dry gin, except it doesn't have any. No licorice, no anise, nothing that smells or tastes like licorice. I'm just not a big licorice fan, so I make these for me to drink, and if other people want to buy them and drink them, fine, you know. So we're in lots of stores in Texas, all the Total Wine and More stores, and all the Goody Goodies in Dallas and Houston, and about 60 or 70 independent stores. So we're around, and we've been we're in our 9th year, or maybe our 10th year now. Did you have some question you wanted to ask?
I do. Yeah,
Well, go for it.
I will. So, and I have asked a couple. So, how does someone buy? I mean, I know you just said you're in several stores,
Yeah,
but
we're
if they
in all
are
these
in a
stores.
store,
If they're out, sometimes you have to ask for it. I know in the
Okay.
Total Wine and More stores, we're always on the bottom shelf, and in the Goody Goody stores, we're on the top shelf, or eye shelf, eye level shelf. But I asked the guys at Total, hey, what's up with this? They say, oh, it's in alphabetical order. Of course, then I look, and it's not. It's a ruse. And I go, it is not alphabetical order. And then I call them, and they get mad. And so that's why it stays on the bottom shelf. So I don't care. It's no big deal.
Yeah.
It's fine. And the distillery's real close to Love Field, and we have a tasting room there, and we got our license Thursday or Friday, like 4 or 5 days ago. And so we're legal now there. I guess we, of course, weren't selling there, so we got our
no,
permit changed.
you were not selling a thing when I tasted all 5 of these.
We moved after 18 years. We were behind the Home Depot on Lemon near Inwood, but we're just about a mile. We come straight out of Love Field, past Chick-fil-A, past Tesla, over the railroad tracks, and we're the first building on the right. And so we're right there. And it's not wide, but it's real deep, and so we're all the way back on the far side from the Love Field. But it's great. The tasting room's open, up and running, and we have all the product there. And you can come in and taste anytime from noon to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, or buy if you like. And we have lots of different deals going on.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic.
Yeah. And so, Kate, we're working on more bourbon right now. I'm not sure, and some other projects I can't mention, but we've got a bunch of things we're working.
That's what I was going to ask you, Lee. Like,
No.
what other projects are coming up, like besides these?
I was on this Raspberry Council. We were trying to develop new products for using raspberries, and so I think I finally figured out how to make a raspberry flavored limoncello with no sugar in it, but it's going to taste like it has sugar, so it's going to be a trick.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah,
I can't wait for that one. Let me know, and I'll bring some people down, and we'll taste it.
Yeah,
We'll let you know. Yeah. So y'all, I did try all 5 of these at the tasting room, and I left feeling pretty good, and they tasted well too. And you were right. This one here, the French oak barrel. Don't want to leave out the French word, but the French oak barrel was wow, it was really good. That was probably my favorite. And I know Kathy went with me, and she really liked the truffle flavored. So.
She's a very expensive date.
She is.
Yeah.
She is.
Yeah.
I didn't buy her.
And so the others retail for $39.95. These all are, and except for the truffle, which
Did y'all hear that? $39.95 for these bottles, and then the truffle is $75, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
It is now.
There we go. There we go.
So the truffles I use run between $1,000 and $1,500 a pound, and everybody's happy except for the Italians. I go in, they go, "Oh, you're not using our Italian truffles. What's the problem?" I said, "Well, your Italian truffles are double that price. They're $2,000 to $3,000 a pound, and they don't have nearly the aroma or the taste that the black French winter Périgord truffles have. So it would have to be $150 a bottle if I was using those. So, but the other truffle vodka is using the same truffles I'm using.
Okay. And they're double the price.
And they're double the price. So
and
we're
they're not filtered through diamonds.
They're definitely not filtered through diamonds.
All right, everybody. After this commercial break, we'll talk more about Lee and his adventures and in this industry, but also more about his fascinating story before he got started in all this. So stay tuned for a word from our sponsor.
With almost 20 years of real estate experience in the North Texas area, the professional realtors at Hilton Realty Advisors have helped over 500 clients with their housing needs. Hilton Realty Advisors covers all areas of real estate: buying, selling, building, investing, and renting. We deliver the keys to homeownership to all through integrity, love, and joy. Call us today for all of your real estate needs.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Matt Hilton Show. Today's guest is Lee Fuqua. And Lee, thank you so much. I have found everything that you talked about with your gin and your vodka and all the things. It's just fascinating that you can make these and they don't have sugar in them.
Right. So I'm diabetic. I got to stay away from sugar. And besides, sugar also feeds cancer, according to some cancer people I know. And they say, got to stay away from sugar as much as you can. And like all processed foods got sugar in it these days. In fact, one of the first things they taught us in enology college, one of the very first things they said, if you have a wine that's got some kind of problem with it, just dose it up with a bunch of sugar and it will absolutely fix a multitude of sins. And I'm like, okay. And so most wines have a lot of sugar in them, or I would perceive a lot. Not threshold of taste is like 3% or something. I can't remember exactly now, but they all have a little bit. And so some of the sugars won't ferment out about 0.2 to 0.3%.
Okay.
You can re-ferment wine 100 times and it'll still have 0.2 or 0.3% residual sugar. It just won't, yeast doesn't have an effect on it for some reason.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So you said you had a filter to show?
Well, I have a show and tell
item.
This is a show and tell item. It makes me happy when I look at it, I see. So I'm going to show you. I happen to bring with me the, this is the diamond filter. So there it is.
Oh, wow.
And there's one Herkimer diamond in there that's 37.5 carats. It's a big one up here, but the Herkimer diamonds are just double terminated quartz crystals that come from Herkimer County, New York. And so Crystal Skull uses Herkimer diamonds, and the Russian vodka that's like $150 or $200 a bottle uses, I think they're using real diamonds. So we use a mix of all three, and then some man-mades too.
So did you come in with the armed guard?
No. Yeah. This housing, this stainless steel device with this glass cylinder probably costs more than the diamonds. I hate to admit that, but it's the deal. But it's it's
deal.
Great fun, and everybody always
looks pretty.
It's like, oh, yeah, they're loose in there.
Yeah, I can see them. I don't know if you can see them, those of you that are watching, but because of the lights. But yeah, that's quite amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So that makes you happy when you look at that, Lee.
It does. It makes me laugh.
It makes you laugh.
It does. It's like, I have a filter made of diamonds, and my filter looks a lot better than the other two I've seen pictures of, which are like, what were they thinking? I didn't know. But anyway, so a hose comes in this end and this end, and you can run it either direction. and it never wears out.
That's great.
And this is all stainless steel, and this is glass.
That's fantastic.
So that's my show and tell.
Well, thank you for showing and telling us.
Great fun.
That's great. That's great. All right, so let's go back to the 1970s. Back in the 1900s,
Okay.
you attended Baylor University.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what led you to Baylor?
Oh, it was, I had family. My sisters had both gone there.
Okay.
And they seemed to have come out okay. So I thought, and then I went down there and looked around a lot. And there were a lot of beautiful women there. And I thought, this looks pretty good.
Okay.
So, and there were only like 3,600 students there, something like that. There's like 15,000 now or something crazy.
Yeah.
It's like insane.
And the ratio of men to women was probably...
It was okay, I think. You know, Southwest Texas had like about 6 or 7 girls per guy, and so we made a bunch of trips down there. So a social fraternity I was in had a chapter down there, and they were everybody on the football team was a member of that social fraternity. So.
And what fraternity was that?
It was a TKE,
Okay.
Tau Kappa Epsilon.
All right.
Teeks. So.
How are you, brother?
Are you?
I
Are you
am.
serious?
I am. I had no idea.
You just never
things that
know.
you-
I mean, you know, yeah.
That's great.
Lawrence Welk and
Yeah.
Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thatcher.
Yeah.
I mean,
So,
we just, that's crazy.
yeah.
Well, very interesting. So yeah, I was radio, TV, film major for quite a while at Baylor, and then I finally wound up just being Bachelor of Arts in Business, but
Okay.
it was some great times.
Yeah.
Somebody said, stretch it out as long as you can, so I did.
So what was your experience? I mean, if you had one memory of your
Well,
college
I
experience.
formed a skydiving club, and I went into to chapel, which we had to do twice a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, I think. And I got up in front of everybody and said, hey, we're forming a skydiving club. Y'all want to come check it out? And I had like 200 or 300 people show up. And so anyway, we shared a drop zone with Texas A&M. We were in Gainesville first, and then got the airport at Hearne, Texas. And so I spent a lot of weekends down at Texas A&M, and they made jumps, a lot of jumps. So hundreds and hundreds of jumps.
So at the end of the interview today, when I ask you what experience do you want to have,
Well,
it's not skydiving.
I used to be a lot taller, and so now opening shock shrunk me up pretty good.
Did you ever break anything? Was there any mishaps that happened along the way?
No, I had some compressed discs in my back. I had to get fixed eventually later, much later. So you're falling at 120 miles an hour, and then all of a sudden you're doing 10 miles per hour. First thing you learn is get those leg straps really, really tight, because you don't want them going sliding up on you. You want them just tight. And I had one failure of a main chute, and I had to pull the reserve, and it was like instant parachute. So there's a lot of devices on a parachute to make it open slowly and nice and smoothly, so it doesn't jerk you too fast. But the reserve ride was it was pretty brutal.
Yeah.
What woke me up.
A lot of people are, I've been skydiving before, tandem. I haven't ever been on my own, but a lot of people are afraid. Like I guess they see the one time out of a million that happened. I don't know what the numbers are, but.
Yeah, I'm scared of heights.
I am
but
too.
I mean, once you get a couple hundred feet off the ground in the airplane, you can't tell how high you are. It just looks like a map down there. I mean, everything gets smaller and smaller and smaller. But you can't go like, oh, gee, we must be 3,000 feet up or 10,000 feet up or 12,500 or whatever. So,
And the experience I had is when I jumped out of the plane, I didn't have that feeling of a free fall, because I guess your depth perception is off. So, you know, when you go over a big hill on a roller coaster, you have your stomach feel like it turns over, right? So I didn't have that until I got closer to Earth. And then it felt like, whoa.
yeah, or if you're staring straight down at the ground, when you start getting really low, you start getting ground rush, and that can be scary. So you always look out at the horizon, and you can tell about how high you are too. But we had altimeters and automatic opening devices on the reserve parachutes and stuff in case you pass out. I mean, it's sort of safe, but I mean,
That's encouraging for those that are considering it.
Well, I still own 4 parachutes. I mean, what can I say? I'd go tomorrow, but I'd probably need to have them inspected and recertified. But yeah, that and
So when you graduated,
I got
did you
into
do?
advertising.
okay.
And I met my wife, and we been now married 38 years. I guess it's going to hold. So far, so good.
And I picked up on the fact that she gave you the money to buy that.
To buy the diamonds?
To buy, yes. I mean, you mentioned earlier you asked her for the money.
Oh, to buy the still.
buy the
Yeah,
still,
she's
yes.
the CFO because, yeah.
Otherwise, you'd just be spending money right and left.
Well, equipment's like crazy expensive. I mean, I put these tops on by hand, and my equipment buddy keeps coming by and he says, "Yeah, we've got this machine that I'll put these tops on for you, and it's only like $200,000." I'm like, "Oh, gee, wow, yeah, no, I'm not gonna play that game. I'll just stick them on, or hire Jeff to put them on." So I'm good with that. So far, so good. If we're having to produce hundreds of thousands a minute, like some people here in Texas do, then we'll have to get the equipment. But
Yeah. So how did y'all meet?
so we met in a restaurant. I saw there was limited seating, and she came in, and an older lady that was with her interrogated me for about 15 minutes, and then the gals all got up and went to the ladies' room, and then came back. And when they came back, she sat down next to me. So I guess I passed the test. So that was that. And we dated for like 4 or more years, and then we got married. And she's from Oklahoma City. She went to OU, and she's really good. Best thing I've run into so far.
Yeah,
Yeah. Wasn't planning on changing anything.
that's good. That is good to hear.
It is. So,
So did you move to Oklahoma? Or did you
no,
stay?
no.
Okay.
She was down here. She was in advertising. She worked on the American Airlines account at Glenn Bozell and Jacobs, which eventually became Bozell and Jacobs, and out in Las Colinas. And anyway, and she lived not far. She lived in University Park, and I did too. And so we just hit it off, and we had a big time, and it was great fun ever since.
That's great.
And so,
So what's your greatest accomplishment? What are you most proud of, Lee?
I think I've made the #1 highest rated vodka in the world 1 year at the Beverage Testing Institute in Chicago, and that's the truffle flavor. So they smelled it and tasted it, and they were obviously truffle fans, and they went like crazy over it. And
Kind of like Kathy did when she tasted it.
yeah, and so if you haven't had truffle before, there's a good chance you wouldn't even like it, because it's sort of, you might think it smells and tastes like brake fluid or something. It's a really interesting aroma, and boy, it makes a great Bloody Mary, and it's delightful stuff. And so if I order foie gras, the Humane made foie gras from Hudson in Canada, because they don't force feed the geese, they just let them eat a lot. But anyway, I would always get it with truffles in it. So,
Okay.
and the truffle adds a neat aroma. It's about 90% or 95% of the truffle experience is really the aroma. There's not a lot of taste to them. I've had them fresh and put them in my mouth, and there's not a lot to it. It's really, so the truffle's really interesting, and it was great when it was the only one in the world. I found a couple, 3 that were made before Prohibition, and they were all here in the United States. But after Prohibition, nobody ever returned to making a truffle-flavored vodka, except for me. And
then somebody copied you.
Well, I don't know if he knew I was making it or not. He may have.
Have you met him?
I have not. He's a Frenchman, and he's married to Gina Gallo. So her family has this big winery out in California, and his family owns a bunch of different distilleries and wineries all over France. And so I saw it. I was going to buy it and taste it, but it was beyond my private. Then my truffle flavor was only like $39, and his was $150. And he also makes a caviar flavored vodka, and that's like dead fish heads, and it's $150 also. So I like caviar, and I like vodka, and I usually do the caviar, then have a sip of vodka, but I don't think I would mix the two together.
I don't think I would either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seems odd.
It kind of does. Is there anything that you, if you had to do over again, what would you do differently? What would you do differently?
What would I do differently? You mean in life or in spirits?
In life.
I'd probably play more golf.
Okay.
No,
Do
since
you
I started the
still play?
winery was open 7 days a week, so I gave up golf then. That was like 18, 19 years ago now.
Mhm.
So, and I also met a buddy of mine. I met this guy. We were chit-chatting at this party on a Friday night, and he said, do you fly? I said, only on airlines. And I used to jump out of planes and stuff when we were talking about skydiving. He said, well, would you like to go fly a helicopter? I said, do you have a helicopter? He goes, yeah, he had a Hughes 500, a jet engine helicopter. So I said, sure, when? He said, how about tomorrow? So I met him up at Addison Airport, and we went flying, and I was hooked. So I started taking lessons, just private lessons, and got my helicopter license. And then we formed a company called Zebra Air, which ran for 24 years. We had 6 helicopters over at Love Field. And so, I flew commercially, and that was fun. Flying helicopters is a blast because you get to cruise around the countryside and go look at, everybody's got their fences up, and, the fences are no problem for helicopters. So you're just like, let's go see what's over there. Okay.
Yeah.
And then,
So, who did you fly? Like, I would assume that there would be
we flew Tom
some...
Landry when he retired.
Okay.
We flew people out to see oil wells and look at property. A lady chartered us to go out to close to Big Bend National Park. She was going to buy this ranch that was like 25, 30,000 acres. I mean, she couldn't look at it, the whole place on the ground, and she was scared to death. She was doing shots of whiskey, and then we finally got her in the helicopter, and off she went. And by the time it was over with, she was ready to buy one. She was like, wow, I need one of these. I said, yeah, it's an easy, unstressful way to get around, just a couple of 100 feet off the deck and cruising around looking at stuff. And so we had a Part 135, just the same as the airlines. And Texas Stadium was so funny. We're flying Landry either to there or from there. I can't remember, but they were like, hey, who's your insurance company? And, what's the same people who insure American Airlines and Delta and all those guys. We had the same insurance. And so anyway, they finally, after we produced all the paper, they finally said, okay, go for it. But we do Christmas lights. At Christmas time, people want to fly around. And so instead of having all the congestion on the ground, I swear, I think Dallas now has more than 1 million too many cars. I mean, and I think half that many every day, it seems like. But I'm really anxious to maybe get another helicopter and get going so I can just laugh my way out of town. Anyway.
So you have been involved in so many things, Lee. Is there anything else outside of the distillery, any other thing that you're wanting to pursue and do?
You mean like marijuana dispensary or something?
Yeah.
Like,
what
if they make it legal?
Maybe?
What?
Okay.
No. I know people who do CBD, and it seems like a friend of mine whose vineyard froze to death and got totally destroyed. He was going to plant hemp and then decided not to for some reason. He's just buying fruit now, and he's down in Lampasas, and that's a Pillar Bluff vineyard, and he makes some pretty good wines. But we have over 640 wineries in Texas now. Holy smoke. And I don't think there's maybe 5 or 6 of them that are making really, really good wine. Maybe 7 or 8. But a lot of them are making stuff like apricot-flavored Chardonnay, and raspberry-flavored Merlot, and strawberry-flavored Cabernet Sauvignon, and sweet. And so I've always made dry, European-style dry wines.
What would be the reason for somebody to add a flavor to a wine, Lee?
Because the grapes were really bad. And so it's hard growing good grapes in Texas. I think the best place to grow them would be near Alpine, but there's no water there. So water's a big problem. And out on the other side of Lubbock, near southwest of Lubbock, there's water, but it's just so flat, and it's like, boring.
There's nothing to do. Yeah.
And not much to do. Driving to Lubbock and do what they do there.
So I've got a few questions to ask you here at the end.
I swear I didn't do it.
I think you did.
I did.
Do y'all think you did? I think you did. Is there a person you would like to meet that you haven't met yet who's living?
Somebody I'd like to meet who I haven't met who is living. Maybe some kind of musician. Probably ZZ Top guy. The bearded guy. Forget his name. But he's a friend of a friend. He's a friend of two of my friends, so I might run into him eventually. Yeah, I'll run into him, I'm sure, sooner or later.
Have you told them you would like to meet him?
No.
Well, maybe you should.
Maybe.
Yeah. What I've learned is when you put something out into the universe,
Uh,
a lot of times it happens.
oh, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, place you'd like to go you haven't been yet?
I haven't been to Fiji. I think Fiji would be fun. They've got all this water coming from Fiji. It must be really a flooded place. I don't know, but
Yeah.
yeah, we went to Tahiti. Tahiti was cool, and sailed around there for about a week. And or maybe if it's safe, Lebanon. There's a winery in Lebanon that produces some really, really interesting wines. We tasted a 10-year-old, 20, 30, and 40-year-old sample of their wines. And the older the wine got, the lighter in color it got, and the younger it tasted. And we had it all Bass Ackward, so we were a bunch of sommeliers and people. That wine was really, really incredible. I would break my rule of not drinking wine to taste that again. It was really, really odd. But Lebanon's a little bit iffy. It used to be like, it used to be a garden spot. I mean, the beaches and everything. It was like the gem of the Eastern Mediterranean. But I think you get shot at these days. I'm not sure what they're doing.
Quite possibly. Yeah. And as far as an experience that you'd like to have, you've jumped out of perfectly good airplanes before. So is there an experience that you haven't had?
I haven't done a base jump. I wouldn't mind jumping off of the top of a building. We were at that tallest building in the world in Dubai, and I just kept looking out the window thinking, boy, if I had a parachute, you couldn't stop me from not going off this sucker.
Okay.
I mean, it was like 3,000 feet up, and that's way plenty high. I mean, 2,700 or something. I can't remember, but it was like, I think it'd be fun. Yeah, I still own 4 parachutes.
That's fantastic. That need to probably be tested out again. Yeah.
Yeah. You have to send them in for recertification like every 90 days. I have to have a master rigger look at them, and they stamp your book and stuff. Otherwise, they won't let you jump them.
So our audience members today get a prize or a surprise, right?
I brought some little bags, our brochure
something
that has all of our. And we have little bottles of vodka, and so we have some regular sipping vodka, a bunch of the French oak. It smells and tastes like vanilla, and then some grapefruit mango. So with those,
fantastic. I think they're wondering how we're going to get that up here so you can kind of show it, and Kathy's going to hand it to me.
So this is one that has a grapefruit mango in it, which is this pink label one.
There you go.
It's got our little brochure in it, which has got description of all the vodkas. It's got the 4 vodkas in it, and then it has my story on the back. And then we have my old business card, which has my picture on the back. And then we have some temp cards I printed, have the new address. So you guys come by the tasting room, taste all the vodkas for free, and you can pick up. We have a very, very, very huge cash discount. If you want to bring cash, that works. We're back into credit cards now because we got our permit like Thursday or Friday. And
so for anybody that comes to the tasting room in the last minute that we have here, I would love for you to tell the story in a minute
about the 3 redheads?
About the 3 redheads that are on the wall.
So I have this picture of these naked women, but they're facing away from the camera, and the picture's shot by a lady photographer who's famous for Texas Hill Country photography. And
why are you looking at your wife, Lee?
I can't remember the lady's name. I always turn and look at it on the picture. But anyway, she knew I liked the picture, and she hadn't sold it for 10 years, and so she said that sent her people over to hang it up behind my bar. So there it is, and it's
just a new home. You didn't purchase it. You're just housing it.
I think it was like $1,800. It's like it's way expensive because she's famous, and she's famous for shooting pictures of old men's faces in black and white, and she blows them up really big. And Luke and Olin Wilson are her two sons. Her name's Laura Wilson. And so she's a high dollar photographer.
Yeah.
Because I know those old men pictures are going for like $500 or $600 a piece, and they're just like 2 by 3 foot. And this one's color, and it's like 4 foot by 5 foot or something.
Yeah.
And 3 redheads. They look identical. They're sisters, and they're from Stonewall, Texas. And the one in the middle is an actress in New York, because some guy, a gentleman who was an actor, and his wife were in one day, and I told him the story. He said, "Oh, I know the one in the middle." And I looked at his wife. I looked back at him. I said, "You're on your own, buddy." Right. He goes, "No, I was in this play. Remember, honey? It was the one." And her sisters came up from Texas, and they all looked the same. Well, they look the same from the back, I know.
Mm-hmm. Yep. You see them every day. Lee, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great to be here. Thank you all.
Thank you. And y'all, that's a wrap. So stay tuned next week as we have another fascinating person with an inspiring story. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the YouTube channel and like the Matt Hilton Show on Facebook. Until next time, see y'all later.
If you'd like to contact Matt or know a fascinating person with an inspiring story that would make a great guest, reach out to the show at themattHiltonshow@gmail.com.